Hey everyone, welcome back to Dave's Shop. Hey, I'm just kind of hanging out in the garage tonight and thinking about doing some more lives on YouTube here. And I thought maybe I'd see this. I didn't really announce going live on YouTube tonight, but normally I do my lives on TikTok. It's called Morning Coffee Talk, and I go live every morning at 5:45 till around 6:30, 6:40, depending on where the conversation takes us and whether I have to have two cups of coffee before I go to work or just one. But tonight I was just kind of hanging out. I was straightening up some stuff behind me on my toolbox and hung up a couple of signs. And so, yeah, I just thought I would go live and see if anyone's out there just hanging out on a Wednesday night um, at the end of their day. Everybody gotta have a little water. Go to the launcher. So, trying to compare this to TikTok Live is a little different. I think TikTok Live pushes the lives out pretty quick because you usually will have a few people start to join. Wasn't expecting this to be a very long live, but I was going to show you a couple of things. Let me step back where you can see. And one of them is this, man, I don't know what you call it. I don't know. They call it like a fruit knife, which I'm not real sure why they would call it that. I call it a neck knife or a concealed, you know, concealed defense item. So because you could, you know, wear it under your shirt, and where you couldn't see it. Let me just adjust this, and you could just carry it. Nobody would ever know you had it, and it'd just be for personal defense if needed. But for the most part, I don't ever go anywhere where I would need something like this. But this is an item that I picked up off the TikTok shop, and I'll tell you why I like it. I like it. I don't wear it around my neck like that. I have a different knife that's very similar. It's probably maybe a half inch longer than this one, but I like these particularly because, like I said, I don't normally wear it around my neck, but these knives probably only weigh a few ounces. And so they're really light in your pocket, and they have this hard case around it. If you've ever carried, hey, good evening, the breeze. I'm sorry, I'm having to get a little close here. Bred by the breeze. All right. So anyway, I was just talking about this knife I picked up on TikTok, and they call it a fruit knife, or I don't know that I'd necessarily call it a fruit knife. I call it just like a fixed blade knife, which I've carried pocket knives probably since I was 10 or 11 years old, and now I've since I started carrying these fixed blade knives, and I want a small one because. And I think they call this a fruit knife because just look at the shape of it. It's flat all along the bottom. The total length of this knife is like 7.2 inches, and the blade's like only 2.7 inches. So it's really small, super lightweight, and it has this super hard, and I want you to hear this. You hear that clip? So that knife's not going to come out in your pocket, and that's where I keep it, is in my pocket. And matter of fact, I have one in my pocket now that and you can see they're pretty close to the same size, but I like them because they're a lot lighter than most pocket knives, and they're a lot quicker and easier. Now I've had this one for, I don't know, 2 or 3 years now, and you can take it out really quick, and then put it here, and you don't have to worry about this plastic, this hard Kytex plastic, cutting a hole in your pocket, whereas a regular folding knife will, after a while carrying it in your pocket with your keys and your other stuff, um, can wear holes in your pocket. These won't ever do that. They're a lot lighter, and if you did need, to defend yourself for whatever reason, these are pretty easy to get out of your pocket. You can, like I said, this one came with a piece of paracord that you can use it to put around your neck, and you can shorten it. This is just an adjustment, so you can make it shorter depending on where you want it to sit. You can put it up underneath your shirt or jacket, and then you would, where it would hang about like that, and you would have yourself a self-defense device if you happen to be someplace where you might ever need it. God forbid you would never have to do that. ILW, thank you for joining me this evening. I appreciate it. I've only done a few lives on YouTube. I prefer YouTube. I've been on YouTube. I've had a YouTube channel since 2019. I'm right here in Central Texas. I started on YouTube because back in 2019, Home Depot asked if I would start to participate in a special program that they have called Home Depot Seeds, and so that's how it started. And all that is where Home Depot would have a manufacturer send me a particular item, and then I would take pictures, write a review, let them know what I thought about it, and that's how it started. And then after the first few where I was just taking pictures and writing a review on and a lot of them were tools and different items. But I mean, over the years, I've written reviews from flooring to windows, washers, dryers, a lot of tools. And so that's kind of how I got started making videos on YouTube. And then, in the last year or so, TikToks came out, and for a while I didn't really have anything to do because pretty much what I made was long form videos, and now of course shorts seem to be the popular thing, so yeah. Then probably 3 or 4 months ago I started just out of the clear blue, I started seeing lives, and I thought, I'm not sure if I want to do lives or not, but thought I'd give it a try, and just happened to be that I gave it a try on TikTok instead of YouTube, because at the time I wasn't real sure that even YouTube, had a live setting like that. And so I tried it a few times on TikTok. It seemed to be fairly successful. And of course, TikTok's kind of like YouTube, but not exactly like YouTube. I think there's, and I could be totally wrong. I think there's a lot of people out there that it's just, you go live on TikTok and, it's pretty quick. You have quite a few people following lives, and there's lives. If you ever get on TikTok, most of you probably have been, as you're scrolling through, you see lives constantly. And so there's lots of different ones from, and I'm just an old buzzard, but, there's a lot of really talented people that do music on TikTok and stuff. So anyway, I thought I'd give it a try, and I'm an early riser, partially because I have to go to work early. The other, reason is because, I don't know, I think as you age, you just you don't sleep as well. So, a lot of times I'm up around 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning. And that's the first time I had enough guts to go live, I guess, is I was sitting on the recliner and there wasn't anybody around. And so I thought, well, if I mess up, nobody that really knows me will ever know that I went live. And I was really fortunate. I've met some really unique people on TikTok, and the thing is they have YouTube channels too. So unlike I thought maybe I was the only one that was maybe dabbling in both, but my heart lies with YouTube. It always has. That's where I have most of my videos. That's where I started. Um, and I'm just trying to figure out, where do I want to do my lives at? Do I want to do them on both platforms? Do I want to just stick with YouTube? I don't know. I hadn't decided yet. Like I said, the live I do now is on TikTok, and I do it Monday through Friday. I try to do it regular, and I start at 5:45 in the morning and go to about 6:30, 6:40, and then it's time for me to go to work. And I've been doing that for a few months, and picked up quite a few followers. It's helped. I've met some new people on TikTok, and I guess I have to question is, are people as excited about lives on YouTube as they are on TikTok? I just don't know. The few that I've done on YouTube have been okay. I haven't had a ton of people join, but the ones that have been really nice. Hey, Gonzalez, thank you for joining this evening. I appreciate it. You can't go live on both at the same time. Well, somebody was just asking me that tonight, and so I guess I probably could. I'd go live on use my phone for one, and then maybe use my laptop and a webcam for the other, and that way I could, I guess, go live at the same time. I'm not sure, and I may try it. I've had 2 or 3 people ask me that. They're like, "Hey, have you thought about doing them both at the same time?" And I guess my biggest concern would be, I might say something about to someone on live, instead of referencing YouTube, I reference TikTok, and look like an idiot. But I don't know. Maybe I'll try it once and just see how it goes. So there's some things I really like about YouTube. When you do a live on YouTube, I could sit here and do a live for an hour, and when it's done, YouTube saves it and turns it into a video. So even if during the live you only have a handful of people watching your live, then it's still on the platform, and a lot of people will come in and watch it like a video, or watch parts of it like a video, to see different things. And so that is probably the one thing that I like the best. Like I said, that's the one thing that I probably like the best. And I don't know what everybody else thinks, but of course, being on YouTube and posting videos from 2019 and then 2020 during COVID, when during COVID, it was crazy. I mean, you could post a long form video and have several thousand views in a real short time. And since TikTok came out, and I don't know if it's just because, like, hey, this is new, everybody, let's go do this instead of that. But I still think that YouTube has probably the best search engine out there. I'm a big Google and YouTube fan. I watch it on my TV. I have it on my computer every day. So I monitor stuff. Because I have probably, I don't know, I have about 5,600 followers on YouTube, and that's not that many considering I've been doing it for what 5, 6 years now. Um, but I'm probably 4 or 5 years away from retiring. And they always tell you when you retire that you really need to have something to do. And for me, I think what I want to do is social media. I work in technology, and so maybe that's being interested in that helps. And I don't know. Sometimes I think it makes you feel a little younger. It seems like that's where all the youth are these days. They're on social media somewhere, and so maybe for me, I like helping people, so I like to do projects. I like to talk about tools. I'm a Longhorn fan, and I tell people all the time, let me know if you like college football. Let me know in the comments because I love college football. I've been a Longhorns fan for probably 35 years. Um, I didn't move to Central Texas until 1974, and I was like a freshman in high school. So, uh, but yeah, I mean, I love college football, so I like to talk about it. I like to talk about the games. I'm interested in tools. I like to do some woodworking. Just handyman stuff. Stuff that I've learned to do. Um, when I was broke as a joke and didn't have any money to, fix stuff, you had to learn to fix stuff on your own. Um, I'm a Christian. I'm a father, a grandfather. I feel like I've raised two families, first my own daughter and then both of my granddaughters have lived in the same home with us for most of their lives. So I think that's good. I haven't thought about being on your end of the camera, but I enjoy watching YouTube. I do too. I, that's why I was really wondering if I would like going live, and I do like going live. For me, I'm not a professional, but what I'm finding is I think people are really looking for more genuine content. Someone like them that's out here making content or going live, and I had somebody just the other day, and of course it was on the other platform, and I was just messing with it. I didn't even mean to go live, and I actually hit the wrong button in it, and I went live, and a lady jumped on the live real quick, and she immediately started asking questions, and I didn't want to just disconnect from her and be rude, so I start talking to her, and probably stayed on the live for like 30 minutes with the lady, and never met her before, but she was asking a lot of different questions, and then sharing some information, and what I found out was that her husband had died a couple of months earlier, and she was lonely, and it nothing inappropriate. This was just she just needed somebody to talk to, and so I say God works in a lot of different strange ways. So I think He put me there so that she would have somebody to talk to. So, and believe it or not, the lady has joined a couple of my lives in the morning, and so that's a good thing. Um, so I have on my lives, I have several people that I met that join on a regular basis. One guy is a Lutheran minister, and he was on 3 or 4 lives. He started on I think my very first one, and when I didn't know what I was doing at all, and he pointed out a few things, and that's the one thing. That's the other thing I really like about YouTube that I don't like about TikTok. When you go live, there's always, I call them bots, other people call them trolls, and they start to post inappropriate comments, which I really don't like. Um, and, because that's not what the live's about. I call it morning coffee talk, and it's kind of, I based it around when my father was alive and retired. And when I was a kid too, I used to always go to the cafe, and you would see a group of older guys that were retired, and they're all sitting around visiting, having a cup of coffee first thing in the morning, and just talking about the day. And that was just kind of how they started their day. And then, they would all disperse and go do whatever they did for the day a lot of times. And my dad did the same thing when he was retired. And so that's what made me want, kind of started the live, and that's what made me call it Morning Coffee Talk, because that was something that my dad, that's what he called it. I'd say, "Where are you going?" He said, "I'm going to the Dairy Queen. We're going to have some morning coffee and talk." And I was like, "Oh, so I thought that would be a good deal." So now, of course, that only kind of really works if you're doing it early in the morning and you're drinking coffee. I happen to be a coffee drinker, and I get up early in the morning, so it kind of fits my personality. Um, but that, I can tell you stories about the minister. Is like, it was so funny because he never said what he did. And one of the things I asked was, "Hey, tell me where you're from, what you do." So I haven't thought Gonza, I'm reading. Bots to me are fake accounts. Yeah, I agree. They are, and that those bots are things that, oh, they drive me nuts. And I don't know. I think TikTok's trying to do better, but they're just nearly on every live. And I had one just the other day, and I think the little icon said, or their handle was "Proud Lib." And right off the bat, I thought, "Uh oh, here we go." I've got a Texas peace officer on the live, Lutheran minister on the live, a couple of single mothers on the live, some retired women that joined the live, and this goofy is gonna be inappropriate. And sure as the world he was, or it was. I say he, but I don't know if it was a male or a female. I didn't have a clue. And I'm conservative, but they were liberal. I'm willing to listen to anybody's point of view. Just don't be saying inappropriate stuff. And the person was just way off, way off. And other people on the live were saying, "Hey, kick them off, get rid of them." And I'm like, "Well, they have a difference of opinion." I said, "If they just stop the nonsense, and if they want to have a discussion." And there were a couple of things that the person said. And I said, "Yeah, it's easy to talk trash and talk dirty and be behind a letter with some numbers, and you don't even got guts enough to." I invited them on the live, on camera. I said, "Get on the camera if you want to talk, so that everybody can see your face and see who you are and see how you're acting. And then if you still want to act that way, well, we'll let you. We'll give you your time on the live." Of course, they didn't want to do that. So anyway, so that's one of them. But I got a lot of good stories, and kind of what I was going to talk about tonight was, hang on just a second, let me get it. I keep myself hydrated. I was going to talk about, and I'll kind of step aside, and I was going to talk about that wall right there. I did that wall, or at least the wood part of it. I did that in a Sunday afternoon, and everybody goes, "Oh!" I mean, I think it looks good. I don't know if other people think it looks good or not. But really, I guess it all didn't matter what anyone else thought, as long as I liked it, and I do. And I wanted kind of a background. Um, of course, this is the half of the garage that I'm allowed to have, because my wife has the other half for her car, and so I keep a few tools up here, and then I have a separate shop behind my home, and but anyway, so I had cabinets back here, and came home one Sunday evening Opened the garage to come in, and all the cabinets were in the floor, and they had paint in them, glassware, some small appliances, just different things that you would keep in a cabinet. And you can see, I'll show you. The cabinet started right here and went all the way to where you see those shelves, and they went all the way up to the ceiling and came down to about where the level of this table is. And so, and they were cabinets that came out of a model home probably 20 years ago, and that were given to me, and I put them on. Matter of fact, I think I still have, I'll show you what one looked similarly. It was that style of cabinet, but a lot bigger. And so, of course, they were all in the floor. It was crazy. There was paint in the floor. I can't tell you that I didn't say a few bad words, because I probably did. But anyway, so all that said, sorry, I'm just moving the camera around a little bit. All that said, it was a the wall was ready for a makeover. I think you're absolutely right. I think it was ready for a makeover, and that was them telling me, hey, get me off the wall. And what had happened is the back of the cabinet had separated from the front half, and so the back half of the cabinet was still stuck to the, drilled and screwed to the wall, but the front half of the cabinet was off in the floor, and it was a mess. And so it took me several hours to clean it up. And then, I had to haul off the broken cabinets. And then I had a plain wall that was scarred and had holes in it because it had pulled some of the mounting hardware out of the walls and out of the wall and left a little bigger hole. And I just couldn't think of, couldn't find cabinets I wanted to put back. And so I had done something similar to this. It wasn't a wall, but it was it was a she shed for a neighbor. Of course, they don't live next to me anymore. They moved, but when they did, they had a portable building put behind in their backyard for a she shed for the guy's wife. And they were, sorry, I was just, somebody walked in front of the house there, and so I was kind of distracted me for a second. Anyway, they were trying to figure out, because most portable buildings are just stud walls. They're not insulated. They're not sheetrocked, and so they were kind of trying to figure out what to do. They ended up putting paneling up, which is not what I would have done, but that's what they did. And then, of course, their building had an A-frame roof, so it was pretty high pitched. And I took cedar fence pickets, and I lined the top part of the roof and around the windows and made some window sills for it. It turned out really good. I mean, and I don't know, it was just something that came off the top of my head, and I thought, wow, I think I could do the same thing on that wall. And if you go and price cedar lumber, it's really expensive. It's really expensive. But cedar pickets aren't super cheap either. But you can get a 6-foot tall picket that's 5.5 inches wide. Actually, they call them 6-inch wide, but they're not. They're actually 5.5. And those are probably, I don't know, $2-3 a piece. So I did that wall probably $100. A regular piece of cedar, hardwood cedar, you could spend $40 or $50 for an 8-foot board. So you can see the difference in price. And the thing I like about it is it's cedar, so it won't rot. You don't have to seal it, and it's a softer wood, so it's really easy to cut and work with. So basically, I just started at the bottom where I leveled it off. I marked the studs on the wall, and and offset the joint so that if I had a cut here, and this was a 6 foot board, then the shorter board that butted up to it maybe only 3 foot on the other side, and then coming the other direction, I'd put the long side so that they offset the seams. And I built that wall, put that wall up in a Sunday afternoon from the floor up. And I thought I would just leave it like that, right? No. My granddaughters said, that's a perfect wall. We want to put up some signs. We think you should put some signs up on it. And so they bought a few, put them up. Well, and they took some old license plates and stuff that they had come up with, and it was kind of an art project for them. And and I liked it because my granddaughters put it up. That was their idea, and it looked good. And so, I started to add a few more signs to it, and so now it's kind of I do lives and people are like, hey, what does that sign say? And I know because from your side everything's backwards. So what I was going to do is I'll turn the camera around real quick just so you can kind of get a better look at it. I'm going to do this right here, and you can see, and ain't nothing special, just different signs. That one right there I just got. A friend gave that to me for my birthday. I thought that was a pretty nice gift because they see the videos and they know the wall. So I have a Coca-Cola one because I used to work for Coca-Cola a long time ago, and I like old trucks, and then just different stuff. These are remakes. These are not original signs or anything, which because the original ones you probably wouldn't be able to afford. But you see that one right there that looks like a license plate right under I can't fix stupid. I used that in a live the other day. That Texas Southwestern Cattle Raisers Association, that came as a gift. Excuse me. That came as a gift from a guy that I became friends with on TikTok doing lives, and what he is a law enforcement officer, and he sent that as a gift to me, and that Cattle Raisers Association has been around since the 1800s. And there's, as part of that association, I think there's like 30,000 members, and they're all cattle raisers in Texas and Oklahoma. And that's kind of one of the unique things is that they only have like 30 peace officers that are a part of that association, and they hold a license as a peace officer in Texas and Oklahoma, and there are no other peace officers that hold license like that in multiple states unless you work for the federal government, and he doesn't. But the guy is a retired DPS officer, and this is kind of his, he retired from one and now he does this, and so he sent that. So that license plate, those are really hard to come by. And so it was a really super nice gift, and kind of how I met the guy and how I already knew about that association is my father was a ATF agent here in Austin, and when he retired from the federal government after 40 years of police work, he was considering and offered a job as one of their law officers. And the only reason he turned it down is because he didn't want to have to move to West Texas, and he lived in East Texas, or he had a place in East Texas, and he didn't want to uproot and move the whole family there. So anyway, that's how I knew about the organization. A lot of history behind it. It's a good association. And I was reading something the other day. It started like, I want to say in 1830. And when they had a lot of cattle drives and they were driving cattle out of Texas across New Mexico or up into Kansas, and there were, began to have a lot of cattle theft, and so that's where the law enforcement side of it came in, and they would, you know, search down cattle rustlers and that kind of stuff, and protect the association members' cattle, and keep an eye out on it. And if somebody stole some, well then, you know, they were who went after the criminals. And what they do today is very similar. They investigate any kind of cattle theft, but they also work like sale barns and stuff like that. And it's all just to make sure cattle's tagged properly and that someone's not selling stolen livestock, cattle, horses, sheep, goats, whatever they run through their pigs. So yeah. So I've met a few super nice people, and one of the things I kind of started with I put his gift on the wall, and I've got a couple other people that have seen the wall, and they're like, hey, if I send you something, will you put it on your wall and talk about it? And of course I will. So I put that offer out there on some of my other lives. But anyway. So it's, I don't want to keep you too long. It looks like I've been talking for about 40 minutes. I appreciate you joining the live. It was kind of, it was different. No bots. How about that? And kind of an, every day doing a live is, you enjoy the people that come back to your lives and comment and follow and do all of that fun stuff. Because you never know who you're going to meet. And at the same time, you want new people to come because, the people that see you eventually, everybody runs out of stories and how-tos and all of that. So then you have to start to get people to engage and tell you about themselves so you can talk about them and not about you. But anyway, I think I'm going to continue to do some more lives on YouTube. And Gonza, I hope I'm pronouncing that right. Gonza. I think you're right. I think maybe I should try doing YouTube and TikTok at the same time. I don't know. Maybe I'll try that in October and see how it does. I'm not sure. If it got really crazy, I'd have to have somebody kind of help me moderate so I didn't miss stuff. But yeah, I might try that. Thank you for mentioning that, because like I said, somebody else had mentioned it too, and I'm like, and it's just like anything else. Is sometimes it takes a ranked stranger to say, hey, have you thought about doing X or Y or Z, and kind of you're like, well, okay, maybe that's not a bad idea. So anyway. Thanks for letting me talk for a few minutes on Wednesday night. It's been fun. I'm glad you let me show you some of my stuff, tell you about myself. I'll be back. I think what I'm going to do before I do my next live on YouTube is I'm going to do the same thing that I do. And you may have seen, if you haven't seen, you've probably seen some videos where I'm talking about joining my TikTok live, even though they're posted on YouTube like a short. And it kind of gives you the time and where I'm at and what to look for. And so if you want to join me again in the morning at 5:45, I'll be on TikTok in the morning. But I think it's a great idea to at least try doing both at the same time. And so again, thank you for letting me talk and share my wall and some of my stuff with you. I appreciate that. And until the next live, everybody stay safe. Thanks. Bye.